go live in a second. Are we live? I think so.
That timing though.
I know there's like a delay. Here we go. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to QuaranCon 2021. This year, I pushed really hard to get to moderate a panel with a bunch of amazing writers who write on the platform Twitch, because I know that that's something that a lot of people have always been curious about, and I wanted to give other writers who may be wondering if they should be doing it themselves or what the heck that's all about and why we do it. Just a bit of an insight. And I wanted to get a bunch of different streamers who have a different way of streaming, and they all just use the platform differently. So everyone could get a perspective and realize you can be a quiet streamer, you could be a active streamer, and just kind of get an idea on why we do it and what we do. So before I begin, I did want to mention, because this is a Twitch writers panel, that Twitch isn't the only platform that you can use to stream your writing. People use YouTube a lot of the time, and I'm sure, you know, some people might even use Facebook Live and other streaming platforms. But for this specific one, we are going to talk about Twitch writers, because that's one thing that unites all of us, is we all use Twitch as a platform to write in. So I just wanted to preface that and be like, this isn't the only place you could do it. You could do it in other areas if you want, but if you're curious, here we are. And so I wanted to kind of introduce each person, and then when I call on you, if you could just you know, tell us a little bit about your channel, possibly how long have you been streaming, if you can answer that question, and what specifically you do during your streaming time. So Brenna, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, thanks.
Because I could tell by the look on your face, you were like, God, I hope she doesn't pick me first.
Oh God, that's my whole school life. It's like, just hide in a corner. No, that's cool. Hi, good evening. I'm Brenna. I am a fiction author. I am a writing cheerleader on Twitch. And welcome to QuaranCon. If you watch my stream, you get it. So I run writing sprints on my stream. If you're not familiar with sprints, you may not be familiar with like NaNoWriMo or National Novel Writing Month. I set a timer, 30 minutes. We do relatively uninterrupted, just working time. And to make it a little more inclusive of everyone who might show up in my stream, because it's a bit of a hub for a number of different types of creatives and otherwise, I just call them working sprints. So it's 30 minutes, relatively uninterrupted work of whatever you need to do, whether it's writing, reading, painting, sculpting, folding laundry, doing dishes, whatever. And then we have 30 minutes of chill time where we just hang out, we chat, et cetera, et cetera. What often ends up happening, though, is that we end up kind of crossing the chat with the 30 minutes of working, but that's all part of the learning process, of which I've been streaming. July 1st will be 4 years of streaming my writing on Twitch. So we've had a lot of time to kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work, and we are still figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So I like to encourage conversation, encourage people to write, encourage people to do whatever work they do while they're hanging out with us.
Awesome. Okay, Travis, how about you?
Well, thank you. And first of all, thanks for putting this all together. And oh my goodness, it is great to be in the same room with, now Brenna and I have hung out a lot, but Scott, Garrett, I've harassed you a little bit without interrupting too much, but good to see you in person, gentlemen. Thank you. Oh, right. My channel, Travis Tavern Talk on twitch.tv. And I have been doing podcasts since about 2007. I went to live internet pirate radio in 2012, and then went to live streaming video 4 years ago. And what I do during my stream, anywhere from recording 2 different podcasts that are put out each week, to playing poker on Saturday nights, performing music, whether it's karaoke or learning new instruments like didgeridoo, and last, but mostly, writing. And I have written 12 books and formatted and edited a children's picture book, all on Twitch in the past 2.5 years since I started doing the writing on stream. I work in bursts instead of sprints, which means I minimize my chat and don't talk to anybody until I hit 500 words. So that can take anywhere from 12 minutes on my best day to 35 or 40 minutes on the rough days.
Cool. Scott?
Sure. Hey there, I'm Scott. I run the channel Scott Writes Stuff on Twitch. And again, wanted to say thank you for putting this on because I live in Japan. So it's a little bit of a time difference from everybody else's stream. So I don't often get to see everybody live. I just catch them in the VODs usually. So good to see you all. And yeah, on Scott Writes Stuff, what we do is we typically focus on having a virtual writing workshop where during every stream, we concentrate on doing some sort of writing exercise or writing prompt that we do together with chat, where I do one on screen that everybody can contribute to and everybody else can kind of do their own and share it and get feedback on what they're doing as well. And we do tons of different exercises. Like recently we did an exercise on how to turn your binders and binders of world building into an actual story. How do you extract the story from that? Or we auto-generate some faces with an AI and we do dating profiles for those faces, or we think of the most horrible, grimdark story prompts that we can, put them on a wheel and spin it, and then we write that prompt together. So like, what is the children's room in IKEA? Well, if you want to find out, you got to write it and make it horrible and terrifying. And so that's what we do. And we do the workshop. We have a free share where anybody can share things that they're working on, novels, stories, query letters, poetry, Phineas and Ferb fan fiction. We've seen it all. So yeah, that's what we do there. It's basically just an online workshop for writers to come together because writing is very, usually very isolating. And anytime we can support each other through, our own experiences and, just letting each other know that you're not alone sitting there writing in the void, it can be very beneficial. So.
Of course. All right, Garrett, I'm leaving you for last. Oh, you're on mute. Nope.
Zoom told me that I would hold my spacebar down and I would be able to talk, and it lied to me. Thanks for leaving me for last. I'm Garrett. I run the Twitch channel Vlog a Novel, which I've been doing since 2014. In 2014, I thought that I invented writing on stream, and later discovered that I was wrong, but I'm probably one of the more selfish streamers on here. My stream is actually a productivity tool for me. So I've been writing my fantasy novels since before 2014, but basically at that time I had realized something about myself, which is that I write more productively when other people are there to sort of monitor me and help me police my productivity. So ever since then, every single one of the 14 books that I've written since then has all been written entirely on stream. And I put myself up on Twitch and I put myself up on YouTube, and they're even just a couple of people showing up makes me not screw around on social media or do other stuff when I'm supposed to be writing. And so I've written all of the books that I've written in my fantasy world of Underrealm on stream, and have just like a really great community of people who show up, help me stay on track, stay on target with actually producing the words and the editing that I need to produce in order to get my books out. And some people find the benefit of having the keyboard typing in the background, or just somebody else who's working actively. They gain a lot of benefit from that, and it helps them stay on track with whatever it is that they're writing or producing creatively otherwise. And so that's been my thing since 2014.
Yeah, I think for me, you're like one of the OGs because I know you were using Google Hangouts when you would stream. And I'm like, boy, that's taking it way back.
Yeah, I
Before
did
the
start
days
on
of
that's right,
yeah.
on Google Hangout, and then after a couple of months, somebody was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Twitch?" And I was like, "What is this? What is this thing? What is this new website that's trying to steal YouTube's thunder?" But yeah,
And so for just to piggyback off of that a little bit, how did you guys come across Twitch just in general to then move into deciding I'm gonna be streaming on Twitch?
Before we do that, what
Yeah.
about you, Erica? Can we hear a little bit about you?
Me?
agreed,
Oh.
agreed. I want to know
Not to be
all
rude,
about
but
Erica.
So okay, so I started streaming. I think Brenna and I are almost at the same length of time, although I might be 5 years into your 4 years. So I think it was about 2016, the summer of. And I typically in the beginning I was heavily into making sure that I was writing on stream, and it was actually because of Garrett, who would bust out thousands of words during his stream, that my response to that was always I can do better than him. And so and so, if not for that, I probably would not have been as active in my need to beat him every time, to the point where if he would finish a novel in a certain amount of time, I would say, I'm going to do it in less time. And if he would, write 10,000 words in one stream, I would say, well, I'm going to do 12. And that was just my personal mission in life, was to just make sure that whatever he did, I could do it faster and better and with more accuracy. And so that's why it was a bit upsetting for me when you went through that time period where you didn't stream, because I didn't have that person that I wanted to beat constantly. And I'm like, why isn't he streaming? How am I supposed to, beat him in whatever he's writing if I can't see what he's doing? But anyway, and then so I did short story writing. I wrote some novels on stream. I was off and on of stream for a while, but in the end, just to kind of answer the question that I was just asking you guys, I actually got into Twitch because of Adobe. When they decided that they were going to enter the realm of Twitch and create that creative arm. And they put Bob Ross on 24/7 at the time. And they had a different Adobe creatives who were on, and they would stream themselves illustrating. One of those specific people, when I chatted with them in the chat, said, what do you do? They asked me, and I said, well, I write. And they said, well, you should be streaming your writing. And to me, I thought, well, that's kind of boring. Nobody wants to see me like writing on stream, but okay. And so, through doing that, I found Garrett, I found a bunch of the OGs who used to stream back then, who unfortunately don't stream their writing today. But, I got into that little community. But if not for someone just suggesting to me, literally from me watching them draw on their Twitch channel, to say, hey, well, you should go write on stream and you should show that, because I'm sure people would love to see that. I was like, okay, I'll give it a whirl. But that's me. So what brought all of you guys to decide to use Twitch as a place to do your writing?
I can't remember how I found Twitch specifically. Um, all I remember is that um, I actually was streaming before I streamed my writing. I was
Okay.
streaming board games actually. So for 2 years before the writing began, I was live streaming board games. So somewhere back then, I actually discovered Twitch, but the writing element, which I guess is really the focus of the question, is
Right.
I discovered the creative side of Twitch. There was an artist I was watching, and I just absolutely fell in love with her work. It was like so basic and so simple. And then one day I was sitting, I was that guy that you probably call out at work, because I had two monitors at my job. So I had one where I was working and one had Twitch up in the background, and that was my background noise. So I would have this artist up on Twitch. She gave this really beautiful background story of how she got to continue her art. She had like terrible, terrible like upbringing. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, this is 2017. It had been like 10 years since I sat down and like properly dove into writing, which I've always kind of loved since I was like a kid. I always loved creating stories. And I was sitting there thinking like, man, if she can go through all of what she went through and I don't have anything like that, I can get back into writing itself. And it just kind of occurred to me like, well, what if I just typed in writers on Twitch and then I found another kind of OG writer. I consider him anyway. His username was Blaine Arcade that you guys might be familiar with.
Yeah.
I watched his channel religiously. Just he was my entertainment in the morning because he was in Germany, so like the time zone worked for when I went to work. And he was the very first Twitch writer I think I ever saw. And what he did was just so, it was so novel. Like somebody is sitting there writing stories live on stream, and I couldn't understand how it was so entertaining. And he kept his chat bumping, like it was moving. And I was excited to be part of it. So I decided some months later, like, I want to try this. And so I did. But because part of it too was I had some of that community who knew me. I was a mod for his channel eventually. And so they popped over to support me, which is one thing that's really great about Twitch is that it just has a ton of very supportive people. So you can take something like writing, and even if what's on the stream, on the screen isn't super exciting, because a lot of people don't show their work, they're afraid of like plagiarism. The community is so strong, and that's what makes Twitch a really interesting and cool place to do your writing and build a community for yourself.
Anybody else want to jump in with how they got onto Twitch?
Sure,
Yeah.
I can. Go ahead,
nope.
Garrett.
Nope, you go ahead.
No, okay. Well, for me, when I lived in Boston back in about 2012 to 2016, I ran a writing workshop there for a couple years called the Brighton Writers. It was in the Brighton part of Boston, and it was great. It was a lot of fun to hang out with writers like 2 times a week, and we'd come in, we'd do exercises and prompts and share and critique each other's work. And then in 2016, I moved to Japan, and there's not a lot of English writing groups in Japan, which kind of sucks. So I kind of spent just 2 years writing in isolation, which was, not the greatest decision ever, because writing is, it leads to madness sometimes. And so I decided one day that I needed to find a writing group, and I looked around. Obviously, there were none in the country. And then I kind of had this galaxy brain moment where I was like, oh my God, the internet is a thing that exists, and we can, do these things online. So I think similar to some other people, I looked on Twitch, and because I'd been watching a lot of video game streams on Twitch for years, like Magic the Gathering and Mario Maker and things like that. And I just looked up writers on Twitch, and I found some people back then, like Brenna said, and I just kind of watched them, saw what they did. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do that's maybe a little bit different than what these people are doing? Because like a lot of people back then were just kind of, writing their own stuff, and that's great, that's awesome. But I really wanted to focus more on the kind of the workshop aspect. So that's what I did about 3 years ago, started that. And when you start up a writing stream, it's for anybody thinking of starting one, it's very intimidating, because you're just going to be sitting there a lot of the time with, dead air, talking to no one at the very beginning. And if one person comes in, it's like, oh my God, it's Christmas morning. But after doing that for a couple of weeks, slowly it kind of snowballs a little bit. And then, you get a bit of a community coming, and it's just like having the Brighton Writers workshop group back in Boston again, only, we have people from all over the world. We have people from the UK and from Russia and Australia and America and Canada, of course. And we're all coming together and, giving each other our own experiences on writing. And it's just awesome. So.
Cool.
Yeah, so I started on YouTube because I much as my writing was, streaming on Twitch was actually inspired by Tolkien, because I picked up a copy of I think it's called Return to the Shadow. It's somewhere on my bookshelves, and or The Return of the Shadow or something like that. And basically it's a novel where Christopher Tolkien J.R.R. Tolkien's son, who has managed his publishing estate after he passed away. He published a book that basically chronicles Tolkien's creation of the Lord of the Rings. And so it goes back into the early drafts, the early outlines, the early notes, and there's all sorts of interesting facts and information in there. Like, for example, just a little tidbit to toss out there. Aragorn / Strider, originally a hobbit in the first draft of the book. He was a hobbit. He was just a hobbit who walked around a lot, so people called him Strider. And then he was like, no, he should probably be a returning king, and so on and so forth. But that discovery of that creative process was so fascinating to me that I was like, man, I wish I could be in the room or like be hanging out with Tolkien while he's writing the books and he's explaining what he's doing and his thought process and all of his everything that's going on in his head. I wish I could see that. I wish I could know why these things were written and these changes were made. And so I decided to start writing Underrealm, which was a project that had been living in my mind for a while already. I was like, I'm going to stream this and it's all going to be there for posterity. Anybody can go and watch it on YouTube. So I started with YouTube, as you said, Erica, like back in the day on Google Hangouts, that was kind of all there was. And it wasn't even a few months before people started watching me, and one random community member was like, hey, have you heard of Twitch? Which is like frankly, I don't want to make any enemies here, but frankly, a better live streaming platform than YouTube. And I was like, what is this? And I started watching, actually, like you said, Scott, video game streamers pretty intensely. And I watched them for a while. And then I just said to myself, hey, if somebody is streaming video games on Twitch, there's no reason you couldn't stream writing on Twitch. And so I just started, and that was back in 2014. And like I said, every word that I've written, every edit that I've ever made since then has been on Twitch.
For me, it was just simply looking for a new home for my podcast. That at that point in time, I was recording as I put it out live on internet radio. And once I moved there, after a year or two of doing that, I guess about a year and a half, I decided I wanted to build more content. So I started exploring other things. I did not search for writers. I just started doing it. And that's the long and short of it.
Good answer. So I wanted to actually pick up on something that Brenna had mentioned earlier. And it's, for me, it's one of the questions that I would get the most, and I still get, from people who randomly join and become a viewer and a part of the audience of my stream. And I'm sure all of you have heard this question in one way, shape, or form. And I would love for us all to answer it, because it's the question that everyone is always asking, which is, what if someone steals your work? Because some of us show our story on there, some of us blur it, some of us, choose not to show it at all. But for the majority of us, usually when we're writing something, we will literally show ourselves writing it, whether it's, Brenna doing her VSS, or it's Scott just doing one of his practice writing where he's just free writing, or Garrett, who's literally laying it all out there from the first draft, rough draft, to almost the final draft. All of us, each in our own way, are showing the words on the screen. And someone is always going to come in who's new and say, oh my God, I would be terrified someone's going to steal my work. And I see all of you nodding, because it's like, yep, you've all had someone coming in. Always there's that one person who comes in and asks that question, and sometimes you try to answer it as nicely as you possibly can, and then other times it's like you roll your eyes and you're like, oh God, here we go again, someone else coming in with the same question. So I'm not going to answer it this time how I normally would answer it. I would love for you guys, for everyone who's here now and going to be watching later on, the VOD, how would you, answer that question to someone who's thinking about doing it, but they're afraid someone's going to steal my work?
I love this question, and I do get it 1,000 times.
Yep.
I was excited because I actually got the question from an artist friend of mine. that I rate into her all the time. I love her to death. And she actually came to me, and I got like heart palpitations because she came to me and she was like, I wanted to ask you because you write all the time and like you're this big name, and I'm like, big name, but no, but she was asking for a friend of hers who is a writer, who said that he was considering streaming on Twitch, but he was nervous about the plagiarism. And I generally have the same answer every time. It's basically kind of twofold. One, whatever idea that I come up with, I already know, and I'm positive it's the same for other people, despite a number of things. Whatever idea we're going to come up with is entirely unique to us. While there's no real new ideas under the sun anymore, any way you're going to take an idea and twist it, it's going to be entirely your idea. It's your story. Only you can type it the way you're going to type it. Everyone has the magical wizard school, but your magical wizard school is not going to be the same as someone else's magical wizard school. It's just not going to happen. And two, and honestly, I think is the most realistic answer, is just nobody, I would bet my life savings, nobody is about to sit there and every day that you stream start attacking every word that you just wrote. I promise you, that's not about to happen. So like, if that helps alleviate some fears, nobody is that encouraged to steal someone's work like verbatim that way.
I'm right there on the exact same page with you. If for somebody to steal my work, because it's video, it's live streaming video. You can't copy paste. Somebody would have to sit there and they would have to live type what you're typing on your screen. And you know what? If somebody types out my whole book that way, they deserve the stolen
Good
royalties.
job.
Like, well done, And if it ever did come to a point where somebody did that and published the book and put it out there, I've literally got a record on the internet, date stamped on Twitch and YouTube, of when I created it. So if it ever did come to a court case, let's say, this is never going to happen, but let's say that Disney went and stole my manuscript and published it. Disney is Disney and they have the armies of lawyers, but they can't argue with, hey, here's a video of that guy writing those words on this day. Like, I would win that lawsuit and get a whole lot of money. There's no downside to this.
And I would feel bad for the person, Garrett, who started copying you on your rough draft day. Because boy, I'd be like, you might want to stop, because there are going to be several other versions of that you're probably going to want to get a later version, because he's going to be changing it up drastically. So you might want to know which version he's on before you start typing after it.
Right. And the thing is like, if somebody wanted to pirate my work, and literally every book that I've written is already on pirate sites. And my view on piracy is like a little bit, just, you can't stop it. So like, there's not a whole lot of worth in trying to like get it pulled down from pirate sites. The way more efficient method of piracy would be taking my ebook after I've published it on Amazon, copy the text and paste it into a doc. You know what I mean? That's so much easier than trying to copy off of my live stream video that like I can't find myself getting too worried about it.
Totally.
I just tell everybody I just stole this stuff from Garrett anyway, so you can have it too. It's but yeah, same thing as you guys. It's, if I blur my work, it's probably more because my ego is fragile that day and I don't need the extra input. But yeah, within 24 to 48 hours of publishing any books, I can search for my book on Amazon and find it being sold by other people. And they're like paperbacks. And I'm like, they didn't get that already. They don't have this. This is them making money off me, and it happens. Beyond that, the ideas and concepts, well, life is too short, and I'm here to share my stories. And if that's what somebody has to do, trust me, they're not a big name person that's going to make the money off of it, because I know what I make off of it. And I'm not Stephen King or George R. R. Martin, so I don't know how much money they'd make off of it.
Right. So, okay. So another question I want to ask, which a lot of people who come to the stream will often ask, and I won't put Brenna on the spot with this one because I'm sure she's already going to have the answer to
Go
this.
ahead.
Which is, would you say you are more or less productive than you were when you started streaming versus now that you have become a more seasoned person and you have so much chat going on? Look at her, she muted herself because she knows. Would you say that your productivity is the same, or you find that you might sway one way or the other because you're influenced by the audience and by your need or desire to communicate with them? So you might find yourself like Brenna talking the whole stream and doing less writing.
Scott didn't answer the last question, so I think he needs to go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. I was gonna say that for what I do on my stream, since I don't really write my personal stuff
that's
on
why I
stream,
almost didn't even want to point him out, because he's unique in that you went into Twitch wanting the community,
right,
and
so
needing it in order to do what you do.
I will say that I don't think streaming has affected my personal productivity very much, but what it definitely has affected is my writing quality. Because when you're streaming and you're writing something and there's people watching, and you start thinking about, oh my God, there's people watching me write, you need to, keep them engaged. It's like you're doing stand-up comedy or something, if you start to tell crappy jokes, people are going to boo and leave. And if you start writing a crappy story, well, people are going to go watch YouTube or a different Twitch channel that they're getting recommended or something, so I think that audience engagement and reader engagement has been something that is, over these past 3 years, really just kind of permeated through me in a lot of ways. And it's like, I think a lot of beginner writers, they think that they can just kind of take their time and, talk about all their worlds and the histories and dead kings and whatever, but we need a story, we need to have something happen. We need a conflict. We need a juicy action thing or something. We need a mystery. And I think that, just having that beaten into your head several times a week while writing stories on stream, it really kind of shows you what kind of appeals to a wider audience. And of course, there's the memes that come up in chat all the time of, oh, let's make it grimdark. It's like, hey, let's write a story about a cat that eats people's intestines. And it's you kind of get a notion for what kind of appeals to people. It's kind of cranking things up to 11. You don't just write a story about a cat, you write a story about a cannibal cat, or you write a story about a magical cat or something, just doing something to really grab people's attention and make sure they want to read it to the end. So again, my productivity, not so much change, but writing quality, I've definitely seen a marked improvement.
What about you, Travis?
I'm as productive as I want to be that day, which means if I just need to hang out with some people and have some writing up there in case it gets a lull or whatever, then I'm chatty that day. If I want to work, I work. And I let chat know. I have different, screens that I use that are more intense for writing or more social, and I switch it out depending what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So it can affect it, but I have a drive to finish my story and get it out there. So at some point in time, I put my own boot in my own butt and I do the work, because that's the bottom line of what I want to do.
Sweet. And Garrett, I think you and I are very similar in our streaming technique, which is, and I think we benefit from that, from the fact that we don't have as many people coming to our stream as a Brenna or a Scott or even Travis. So we do a lot of the ASMR type of writing, which is people I've had message me say that they love coming to my stream because I'm not chatty Cathy, and all they get is my typing on the keyboard. And so they can do their typing or whatever it is they're doing, and the sound of just me typing is all that they come to my stream for. And so I get a lot of lurkers because of that, and I'm sure you have something similar to that. And that's why I love going to your stream, is because I know that it's rare for you to speak. Sometimes when you do, it jars me because I'm like, oh my god, Garrett spoke, and I'm always messaging you like, too loud, be quiet. Like you started talking, and it freaked me out. So like I think that I love that juxtaposition between all of us, is that it's different for each of us because of, and it influences us because of who's there versus who isn't. But if you, Garrett, could talk about the productivity level for you, because I know you've had a couple of highs and lows, but different from all of us, everything you have written for Underrealm, you have video footage of. So you've got a much larger perspective on if your productivity has gotten better or worse, or had ups and downs, that I think would speak a lot to a lot of people wondering if coming to Twitch is something they should do, and not be so fearful of, you might get distracted and your productivity can dip, or you might get bolstered and your productivity can actually do better.
Yeah. And so, like I said in my intro, I'm probably the most selfish streamer in this panel right now. My streaming is specifically for my own personal benefit, and I am happy that it helps other people as well, when they say that, like, oh, you typing in the background or having somebody else there working also helps me work. But that's not in any way the primary objective of my streams. So as you mentioned, I don't think that I've ever had the numbers that Brenna has, and I'm newer to Travis and Scott, but the little bit of, watching your streams or rating you or whatever, every time I raid you, you all have more viewers than I do, right?
Right.
You have much more people watching you than I do. And that is, that is because I am not, that is because I am very selfish in my streaming, where it is for me. And there is a trade-off where I have people watching my stream and they want to chat with me. And just being 100% honest, if they want to chat with me and what they're saying isn't particularly interesting, I'm just not going to engage with it. If it's not something that I'm interested in or I want to talk about, I'm probably going to brush it off, or give like a brush off answer or something like that. If somebody says something that I find is interesting, I can go on a rant. And like most of my Twitch clips are people clipping, oh, we got Garrett ranting. Oh, he's talking about this thing. And I go off on a spiel. And when that happens, that reduces my productivity to a degree. But the benefit to just literally knowing, just having that number up there and knowing that 4, 5, 6 people are watching, the productivity benefit that gives me so far outweighs the occasional moments where I really get on some topic of conversation. I spend more time talking when I'm streaming, obviously, because you're streaming and people are talking to you. But that, compared to if I'm just working alone and nobody's watching me, my productivity drops into the basement, because it's so easy. And I'm also, I have a wife and 3 kids. It is so easy to get distracted. It is so easy to get pulled off into household chores or something like that. Whereas if I'm streaming, I can just be like, hey, I'm streaming. I have to be productive. And so my hours, my words per hour, or my productivity per hour when I'm streaming, no matter what other factors enter into play, I'm so much more productive when I'm there hanging out with people online who are trying to do the same thing as me, than if I was just doing it alone with no stream going.
Right. So one of the things I want to talk about now that we're talking about having an audience there, and whether it's a bunch, dozens, or just a handful, is do any of you or all of you have any sort of stream etiquette that you like to make sure that your viewers adhere to, because I know for some people you don't want any, like backseat drivers where if you are showing your story on the screen, you don't want someone like just jumping in. And I know this bugs Garrett sometimes because I've done it to him and he's kind of like, it's okay, Erica, because it's you, where I'll correct a typo that I see and I'll point it out to him so he jumps back and gets it. And so I try to make sure not to do that because I've done it to him a couple times and he will, I'll say snap back and say, no, I don't want you to do that. Like, don't correct me. I will find the error later. But if any, just on that, or even on, just the commentary that may happen, because if you have more viewers like Brenna or Scott or even Travis, where you want to make sure that people are behaving themselves. So you may have mods or you may not have mods who kind of, rein that in. But really also from a writing perspective, when you're showing your writing, what do you feel is appropriate to let the viewer know, like, this is my writing, I don't want your input, or do you want the input? Especially, I know, Scott, you feed off of the input. So I feel like everyone's got a different kind of stream etiquette with that.
I mean, I guess I can start off because I think mine's going to be a little bit different from other people. But like for me, as far as etiquette goes on the stream, the only thing that I ask of the viewers is that they can suggest whatever they want. And in all honesty, 99 out of 100 times, I just run with whatever suggestion they give because it's going to be better than anything I can come up with. And I think that's for a lot of reasons, because like when I'm sitting there typing, like my mind is on like, where's this story going? And, how am I going to connect this to what happens in the end? And I'm also thinking about, oh my God, is my stream bitrate doing okay? But the viewers, they're just kind of in the moment, in the sentence, and they make the best, juiciest like sentences that they can come up with. So like, oh, Scott, that sentence you wrote sucks. Here, do this one instead. And I just copy paste it right into whatever we're writing. The only thing that I ask of people is that they keep the suggestions PG-13. That's all that I do. Save the R-rated or higher things for their own time. So other than that, yeah, it's just as far as etiquette goes, the more the merrier. I will say that when I first started streaming, it kind of maybe was a little bit of not an acquired taste, but it was an experience to kind of get through people being like, oh, you misspelled a word, or oh, you need a comma there, or whatever, or, oh, use this sentence instead. It did take a little getting used to, but once you kind of accept it and you kind of realize that these people are giving you suggestions because they want the story to be as good as possible. It's not that they think you're a horrible writer or something like that. They just want to have a cool story that they've helped create. And I think once you kind of internalize that, then it helps you become a better writer as well.
I think my stream is also a little bit different because again, we're dealing with both a writing element and an entertainment element, right? A discussion and lots of chattiness,
you
etc.
and Scott are definitely the celebrity entertaining element of the writing community on Twitch. And I think Travis is kind of moving into that field as well, even though he hasn't been streaming as long as you guys. I feel like you three
Travis streams for like 10 hours sometimes.
I mean, in terms of how long he's been on Twitch, but yes, he's like he's becoming one of those celebrity type of entertaining streamers.
Yeah, as far as etiquette is concerned, and it also touches a little bit back on the previous question that I was skipped for reasons. But so over time, how I handled the stream has changed. I've gone the gamut of I tried to do all my real writing, my personal writing. I've tried to do similar to how Scott does and how Blaine Arcade used to do, was like just impromptu writing based on prompts. Which that did not work for me at all. So I was sticking more towards the very firmly outlined, at least to some degree, style of writing. And that shifted over the course of 4 years, mind you, to get to where I am now, which I like where the stream is now. And it's still going to change at some point. But to the etiquette question, as far as the writing side of things, I never ask. I immediately say, do not edit my work. Don't tell me I made a mistake. Don't tell me, oh, that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense because it's a raw draft and it is not my forte. My raw drafts are ugly. They are so ugly. And I know this and I recognize
Hard
this.
disagree.
To the point I don't like them myself. Because I know what they can be after some good editing, and so I tend to be my own harsh critic in that regard. And I think Travis had mentioned, sometimes you can get a little bit of that self-consciousness while people watch you write. So I'm like, I don't need the double time of that to include people editing my work as I go. And I just tell them, like, look, this is a raw draft. It's going to have mistakes. No worries. I promise I will catch it on the other way, like on the next round. But I do appreciate that means that they're looking at the screen, which is nice. But yeah, I ask them not to do that. And it's sometimes I just won't show the actual writing. If it comes to books, I don't actually show my writing on screen because I have other projects that I will save now specifically for the stream that are still productive for me. I still feel like they are helping me towards becoming the writer I want to be, the author I want to be. And I don't have to show the published or the going to be published work. So I have projects to do on stream and I'll show those versus my other work. And then as far as the chat side, because my stream has grown into being one where, yeah, I do focus a lot on the community and on having us chat. People have asked me questions over the course of 4 years that I've grown to feel very comfortable answering, and I love it. It makes me feel really good as an author to be like, I have experience to explain why this should be one way, perhaps, and why you might want to consider this other thing. So we get all kinds of discussions on my stream that some are not even technically writing related.
That's correct.
Right.
I was just gonna
They
say, they go off on
we-
tangents.
Oh, we go anywhere. There are certain topics and my chat has learned what they are. There are certain topics that I will break for those topics because I am super into them. And that's fine. The reason I'm so into them and the reason I'm willing to stop not stop the counter still goes. My timer, my sprints go, but I will stop and talk because we're writing books. 98% of the people in my chat are fellow writers, and we are writing stories. A story is a human story. You can have aliens all you want. I don't care. You're still writing a human story because you are not selling your book to an alien. You are selling your book to a human. And that's how we relate to what it is you are writing. All the things that we talk about, they're all human elements, whether it's we talk about relationships, we talk about occasionally like theology pops up, we talk about race and sex and whatever, like we talk about everything and I don't mind it. So as far as etiquette goes for that, the only thing I demand, because I do not censor my chat, we can talk about whatever we want. And I'm happy to hear all sides of you. I don't care if I agree or disagree. I tend to have unpopular opinions myself, and that's fine. The only thing I ask is that nobody is attacking each other because it's just, that's not how I roll. I'm not going to have people specifically nitpicking and pointing someone out and calling them a name because it's unproductive and it's unkind. And so I don't allow that in my chat. And I've actually, it was the strangest thing. I kind of thought that was like a good common ground to have, was that level of etiquette for your fellow writer, for your fellow person. And I actually had someone point out to me like, oh, actually, I would never have that kind of a rule where you don't censor your chat because it, like, they gave it a reason, like it leads to giving people a certain platform that they don't deserve or something along those lines. And I was like, that's the first counter I've ever heard to my allowing people to talk. That was very interesting. I disagree, and that's fine, but like I've never heard a counter to that before. But yeah, because I have to balance both sides of that, there's etiquette to have on either side of that streaming style.
Awesome. Okay, so one thing I wanted to, piggybacking off of that, has there been any negatives that you found to streaming at all from anyone? Have you found any reasons why you would stop streaming, or is this something you're going to be doing as long as you feel like you want to or you can? Is there any deterrent for you as you've been doing this? Because I know some people, they start, we've seen a lot of the, like, they say the November month, which is NaNoWriMo, where we see everyone coming in and they're going to write those 50,000 words. And then by mid-November to like December, they all gone, disappeared. By the first week. Yeah. So it's like, and some of them will say it's because they're intimidated or they didn't realize just how, on they had to be when they were on camera, or they felt like they had to be on. So they feel like it's just too much for them to take on that weight of being on camera where someone may or may not be watching you. So I just wanted you guys to kind of speak a little bit on, do you feel like it's overwhelming and like you could get burned out by the fact that you're doing this for long stretches of time, either in the day or in the last several years? Like, is there any negativity either from the chat or whatever the case may be that might deter someone from wanting to stream? And if so, how do you overcome that or just get past it?
I'd actually love to jump in on that one, because for streaming, as opposed to writing without streaming it, there is one aspect that, at least for me, is very important now. But even before I was streaming my writing, I had a YouTube channel that I was running for a good long while, and there is it might be more relatable to somebody who's never streamed before. If you picture like, okay, all right, I'm going to get up early every morning and I'm going to write. Take streaming out of the equation. I'm going to write. Okay. You get up at like, you have work at 8, so you have to leave at 7:30. So you're like, I'm going to get up at 5. I'm going to start writing by 5:30, and then I'm going to write till 7:30, and then I'm going to go to work. Okay. Let's say you hit your snooze button one too many times and it's 5:45, 5:50. And you're like, well, I mean, I could leave it until 6:30, because then I got a solid hour in. Then I got an hour of writing in. But like that it's hard to start until you're like guaranteed to get that amount of time in, right? So streaming amplifies that one aspect of your life where it's like, oh man, do I really want to get set up for streaming? Start up OBS, go check my hair to make sure that I don't look horrible, all that sort of thing. Do I really want for me personally, once I start streaming, I can go for 12, 14 hours. I don't care really. But getting started is a little bit more of a runway than if you're just writing without streaming it. So that is one thing to consider. And for me, again, related to what I was saying before, establishing a community expectation that you're supposed to be streaming during this time kind of solves that for me. If my people know that I'm supposed to start streaming at 6 a.m, even if I don't start at 6 a.m, if I start at like 6:10, 6:15, by the time 5:45 rolls around, I'm like, oh, I got to get ready. I got to start getting everything going and everything like that. And so it's easier for me to start. And then, 6 o'clock hits and I'm like, I'm late now. I got to get ready. I got to get going. So having expectations of people that you're supposed to be streaming at that time is sort of what has solved that problem for me recently. It's an imperfect solution because sometimes I still am just like, yeah, I'm not streaming today. But that longer runway to starting your writing can be a little bit of a barrier that, frankly, I would like to hear better solutions on.
There are definitely days that I am just not. So streaming is a bigger kind of emotional and mental input than you might otherwise think. It's not just because you have to remember these are human beings. Like I know people who joke about some people being robots as streamers, ongoing joke. But like they're still human beings. Like I'm a person and I get tired. I don't feel like I look fantastic on multiple days of the month. on any given day, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and I just feel like crap. And oh no, I just said the first swear. Oh, dang it. Um, there are just days that you're not feeling it. And to the idea of turning a camera on is really heavy. So there's that element. There's the fact that it is an emotional and mental task that you may not recognize at first until you actually do it. Um, Other elements can be if you do go in expecting to have a lot of people to chat with to start, don't do not.
Yeah.
The reason I had anybody, like I said, I was moderating for another relatively large writing streamer. They knew me there. They saw me there every morning. They said hello. They know who I am. And so when I started streaming, I had people. I was very fortunate. Thank God I had people who would come over and chill with me because they wanted to say hey. My very first troll in my chat was actually like turned out to be one of my favorite people on Twitch, who he doesn't stream nearly often enough anymore, but he's actually hanging out in the chat now. But like he's one of my favorite people, and he was hanging out from the start. So I had someone there, so that was very fortunate. Just the what to do on your stream can feel very overwhelming sometimes. There are days that I don't know what I want to work on because you go on expecting, okay, they're going to work on their book. They're an author. They're going to work on their book. I might do that. I might not. I might be working on a flash fiction. I start my days now. It's a really nice routine. I start my days now with the VSS, which is a very short story. It's a writing challenge on Twitter. So that's now the expectation. I start my day that way. And once I accomplish that, I've accomplished something today. So I have content now for at least my morning streams.
Mhm.
The afternoon rolls around and I may or may not have something to do. And that can be also really anxiety creating, that I'm just like, I need something to do. I can't just sit. What am I gonna do? Sit here and talk? Have Erica make fun of me because I'm sitting here and talking? Like I gotta,
Which I
I gotta
always
do.
do.
She
I'm
does
like,
every
so
single
when did
time.
you start writing? Because I haven't seen you write one word yet.
Listen, lady. So yeah, content can be an issue if you're expecting to always be prepared to work on your book. You know very well you're not always prepared to work on the next chapter of your book. I'm between stories right now. I'm in the middle of plotting, and plotting is one of the most difficult things, just for the burden of freedom that it has. So I have to struggle now and sit with, what am I even going to do on the stream? So as far as overcoming that, set your expectations with those in mind. If you feel overwhelmed and you don't like streaming, stop streaming. It's okay. If you need to take a day, I promise the community is not going to find out where you live with and show up with pitchforks because you didn't stream that day. Like if you're having what people call it a mental health day, take a mental health day. I've had to do that numerous times. Or if I didn't want to just cut the whole stream, I would just turn the camera off. And it's funny because that's a whole other, like, you could have a whole panel about it. Just the difference between like male streamers and female streamers. Like that's a whole can of worms we could open if you want to, but whatever. It's funny because it's notable. When I turn the camera off, the viewership is not the same. It's not the same numbers. And I find that hilarious, to be honest. But sometimes, like, yeah, I'm not going to have the camera on because I don't feel like it. If you want to stream, the camera's off. You want the camera on, you're not getting a stream because I can't like handle it that day. So it's just a number of things that you need to take the time to do some introspection and figure out what you are comfortable with. And if you find something that makes you uncomfortable, adjust your stream or take the day.
Cool. Travis, what
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I have a few things to add about this. I'm going to bounce back and forth. Something that was said earlier, we're talking about accountability and expectation. Garrett was speaking about this. You have people who expect you to be on to do what you do. And that does help create that atmosphere of, I'm going to go in and do my thing. But you do have those burnout days. I find after I finish a novel and then do the edit, I almost always need a week or two, even though I have the next book set up and ready to go, because I keep notes constantly, as most of us do. And I kind of have the next book quasi plotted out, or at least an idea of where I'm going, what I'm doing. So I'm always ready to write the next one. But sometimes I need that break. And that's why I have this other content. And I've created that because I enjoy the community and I want to continue to connect with community. But there have been days where I've been on for 20 minutes and I'm like, nope, I'm done. I can't today. Today was one of those days. I had planned to get on and do stuff all day, work on my next project before this, but no, I needed the day off. But beyond that, when you do go on stream, it helps to have a plan. Now I have a day job, so I'm quite often planning what I'm going to do on my stream that night. And I have, a bullet point list of 2 to 20 things. So I'm prepared with, am I trying to hit this word count tonight? Or am I fleshing out a character's background? Am I outlining and plotting? And a lot of times that's just 3 sentences below the paragraph I'm working on to get me through the major points I want to touch on. So after that, I could just repeat everything Bren said. If you need it, take it. And there have been times I've done it without a camera also. And fun fact, I don't think I lose numbers. I just get different people. Different people come to me for writing and leave when I do other things. And other people come to me for the personality and the entertainment value. And if I'm writing, they're like, good luck. Have a great time. Love you. Bye-bye.
Could I real
Right.
quick hop there? Super quick. Just
Yeah.
because he mentioned the community, and that is, I mentioned trolls hopping in, but I was referencing someone specific. But there are real trolls that people also should be mindful of. But at the same time, that's also one of those things that someone's going to come into your chat and they're not going to like what you do, or they literally are a 12-year-old boy in their mom's house and they're just looking for something to do on a Saturday afternoon because they've got no friends. Whatever. We pity those people, but they're going to show up, they're going to say what they're going to say, and you need to know how to handle that. And I think that's one of those things that comes with experience.
Right.
I went from a point of being really anxious if somebody came in, and I did the accidental, oh no, I read the username out loud because they followed and it made me say something, nasty. That's happened to me a handful of times before I learned just to read and pre-read the username before I read it out loud. And I know you said that, some crude language was okay, but it went from that, that kind of panic to 2 or 3 years later. I was doing one stream, fun story, and somebody came in and all they said was, hey, I would follow your stream, but your tits are too small. And I was like, thanks, can't do much about it. Thanks for coming in. You learn to just kind of let it roll off because you're going to get things like that. And you grin and bear it, or you'll learn that it just doesn't matter what these people are saying.
Right.
Yeah, one thing I just want to add here at the very end that I think I agree with what everyone said, but what Erica said at the very beginning here, where somebody writes a NaNoWriMo novel and then they kind of drop off at the end. I think that, writing and streaming, they're so much more connected than I think people think at first, because for other creative pursuits, for someone who draws, you can draw a picture and you can share it with people and they look at it for a second and then they love it, and you get that positive feedback. Or you write a song and you put the song up and people listen to it for 30 seconds or a minute and you get the positive feedback, But I think everybody here knows, because we've had this experience where you write a book and nobody cares, and it's the same thing where you do a stream and, that's asking a lot of investment from people. They have to sit there and watch. And honestly, most of the time, nobody cares. I think a lot of people who don't have experience either writing or streaming, they have this kind of fairy tale idea in their head where it's oh, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to be like J.K. Rowling and make $1 million and it's going to be great. And when that doesn't happen, well, then the tumbleweeds kind of come and they lose interest, So I think that for writing and streaming, you have to do it because you love it. You have to be insane to do either one if you don't love it, because it's,
And
I think all of us can say
at
here
the same time.
Oh yeah, what all of us are insane. We're crazy people here. What are we doing? So
Yep.
I think it's not glamorous at all, and you have to do it because you love it, And I think that's why we're all here, because we love writing, we love streaming, and that's why we're here. And again, if you're in it for the money or the fame or whatever, you know, maybe you want to try something else. But if you're in it because you're passionate about those things, then I think you can have a lot of fun with it.
And the hashtag Twitch Writers community is really very tight knit. I mean, I will admit that, you know, Scott and Travis, I found you because of the Twitch Writers community, because it's a well-known fact that if you go to Brenna's stream, she's going to shout you out. You all you have to say is hello, and she's instantly going to say you need to go follow that person, and you need to do it right away because they're a cool writer, or they're a cool illustrator, or, you know, they're a cool, you know, D&D person. Like, she knows instantly from just the hello what that person does on their stream, why you need to go watch them. And, you know, and for me, I keep a list. Like, I'm always looking on the writers hashtag, and I'm, you know, lurking in there, and I want to see who's going to go the distance. And that person, I will make sure that I give them a follow, that I let people know about them. And that's what we do as a writing community. We will, you know, seek each other out and say, you know, we need to all go to that person and follow them. And the majority of my followers are writers. And, you know, that was the first introduction that I had into all the different ways and aspects of writing. But really quickly, before we start to wind this down, I wanted to go over some of the questions that we had in chat, because chat's been going crazy over here on YouTube. Don't think I haven't been noticing you guys over here chatting away on the YouTube chat. But I did see some questions coming up, and two of them really stuck out to me that I wanted to bring up. Is one of them is reading your work on stream. What's your take on that? I know, Garrett, for you literally, when you get to your final draft, you will speed read through it out loud for the purposes of editing, which is a lot of the reason why I do the same thing. Is less for the listener to hear it, but more for my own ears to hear myself reading it so that I can catch mistakes. But I know that others of you will do different things. Like, I know Brenna reads other people's work, and, you know, talk about the permission you get from that, and where that came from. But what do you guys, what's your take on either reading your own work or how you go about reading someone else's work on your stream, and why?
Yeah, so I read all my work out loud as my final sort of editing pass, because hearing it, for me personally, I just believe like accesses a different part of my brain that like allows me to spot errors that I hadn't before. I also want to quickly just piggyback on one thing that everybody was talking about before. And hey, if trolls and people show up in your chat and whatnot, blocking them does not mean you've lost a fight. I feel like a lot of people have a misconception on that. If you block people, that doesn't mean you lost. That doesn't mean they are superior to you. That just means that somebody walked into your living room and took a dump on your carpet, and you said, "You're not allowed in my house." Weird, crazy person. So anyway, but as for the reading aloud thing, yeah, I really like that aspect of it. And everybody streams writing for their own purposes. A big part, like reading my own work aloud also is very good for me to help spot errors and final editing and everything like that. However, one thing to consider is that like it's also to one degree like an accessibility issue, because you know it's really hard to caption on Twitch. And so if somebody wants to follow along with your writing process, it's good to have yourself reading your own stuff out loud on your Twitch stream or your YouTube channel or whatever, because certain, you know, like if somebody can't watch what you're writing on screen, they can still kind of to a degree have the same experience if the reading out loud aspect is there. So that is one factor to consider. Obviously everybody streams for their own purposes, so that, you know, may not be as applicable to some people as others, but that is a good thing to think about.
Yeah, I don't read my own work terribly often, and when I do, for the exact same reason of I constantly say it as well, read your work out loud. You will catch 10 times the mistakes you would have caught just by doing the quick eye read. I don't read my own work very often. When I'm editing my work as one of the content things I might do on my stream, I will actually mute myself. Just I don't know. I feel like reading my own stuff feels distracting. Um, I don't know. I didn't really shore up those particular thoughts in my own stuff. I just don't like it, so I don't do it. But I do host a workshop. So it's the second and the fourth Saturdays of the month. I'll host a workshop because early on people have been asking me, "Hey Brenna, can you read this? Hey Brenna, can you take a look at this for me?" And I would love to do that. I'd love to look at everyone's work who's ever done that. If you can find me about 16 extra hours for the day, I would be happy, thrilled to do that. But I cannot, and you cannot. So I actually dedicated some time after being inspired by another creative streamer, another artist, streamer, visual artist. So we host these workshops, and that has been incredibly helpful, not just for me, but for the authors who send their work in. Taking the time on the stream allows for other people, not just me, to give feedback too. They'll catch things I didn't catch. They'll catch inconsistencies. They'll catch typos. One of my friends who also streams, she herself is actually a line editor. And when she catches our stream, because she's a fair number of hours behind my time zone, but when she catches the stream, she's actually looking at line edit mindset when she's going through some of our work I read. And that's a really cool tag team to have. I keep that in the back of my mind. But reading it out loud has been super helpful. Again, for me, just getting the practice of critiquing, spotting mistakes that I would have missed. And it's good to hear your work read out loud. There's a difference too between you reading your own work, like Garrett might do for his work, and then having someone else read it. They're coming at it completely blind, completely fresh. So they're going to read it with intonations that they think are appropriate that you might not have expected them to do. They're going to have questions that you otherwise thought was pretty solid in your own head, and you're just going to get a new perspective for yourself or for the author you're reading it for, like I would do on my stream.
Anyone else want to jump in? I've got 2 more questions we're going to do before we
I will
wrap it
real
up.
quick. I usually read most of my work out loud as I'm typing it, though I've backed off from that. And in the edit, I definitely read it out loud. This past book I didn't because, again, there's just certain moods. So as for reading other people's work, I don't like to do that because usually when they ask me, I'm in the middle of working on my own. So I'm in a very critical mindset and I'm worried about hurting feelings. And a lot of times when I do read people's work, I'm like, hey, are you looking for this to be torn apart? Or are you looking for this to be like, hey, good job, keep working? And I always try to include that also, but it's so easy when you're a writer to feel exposed and get easily hurt without ever wanting to. But and when you're done with your questions, I had one more comment about a previous thing. If we have time, if we don't, easy enough to skip. Scott, you guys? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Scott,
just
did you
real
wanna-
quick, 10 seconds. I just want to say on our stream, we're again a little bit different than the others, but as I'm writing it, I read aloud everything that I'm writing sentence by sentence. And then when we're done, I go back and do a quote unquote dramatic reading of like the whole thing that we've done every time, giving different characters, different voices and stuff like that, sometimes putting on hats or whatever. It's a lot of fun. So I think it can help bring a story to life, just reading it out loud for sure.
So one other question that I saw from the chat, going way back to the very beginning, someone had asked how much of what we write on stream is the entirety of either the novel or the short story, or is there any time that you spend off stream writing? Are you doing 100% of your writing on stream? And I know for some of us, that's probably different. Like my guess is Scott does his novel writing off stream. So he does have a level of productivity where he doesn't need the stream to be productive. He's got his own way, and props to you, because some of us need the stream to be productive. and would love to know how you can do your writing off stream and still have that level of productivity. But how many of us are, whatever it is we're publishing, or whatever it is we're going to be releasing, whether it's on Patreon or on our blog, is on stream, and are we doing any of it off stream? Is it in bits and pieces? What's going on there?
So since I'm a little bit different, I'll just say mine and then I'll hand it over to everyone. So like
You keep
Erica
saying
said,
that.
well, I'm sorry,
Which is
I'm
why I
weird.
insisted on having him in this panel, because he's the most different from what we all do.
I'm very special, yes, indeed. But yeah, like Erica said, we do the writing workshops on the stream here, and then I do my own, typically novel writing between the streams during my own free time. And just one thing I want to say about that is, some people, when they come to the stream, it's like, Scott, why are you writing about, the cursed game of Shrek Golf on your stream during a workshop right here? It's like, well, yeah, it might seem a little bit silly.
What?
Hey, if you want to know, you got to read the Shrek Golf creepypasta. That's the only people who are in the know. But why are we doing this? And I think, it might seem silly from first glance, but in all honesty, I always compare it to like doing a sport, where it's like working on the novel is kind of like showing up for the match against the other team or something, and kind of doing, prompts and exercises and stuff like that. It's like jogging or, lifting weights or something, because you still are doing writing, you're still doing that kind of physical exercise. You're working your creativity muscles, your writing muscles, and all that good stuff. But the difference is you're writing about Shrek Golf, something you're not super emotionally invested in. So you kind of lose that anxiety and that stress, and you open yourself to take more risks and try things you haven't done before and learn things and try new things. And when you get feedback on your Shrek Golf story or whatever, it doesn't hurt as much as if it was something, you've been planning for years and you love and you created the character and all this stuff. So I think that it can really help, to do these kinds of, even for my own productivity, doing these kinds of exercises between my own writing. So it's kind of like, again, just the writing equivalent of lifting weights and doing exercise between the big matches of the novel writing, if we're getting weird with the metaphors.
I don't think that's actually terribly different than how I operate, honestly. So again, like over the course of 4 years, my stream has shifted as to what I'll work on and what I won't. And I'm currently at like a status where I'm like, I have smaller projects to work on, and I've found a way to make them productive small projects. One, it gives me stream content. Two, it's practice. It's constant practice. Like writing, any skill is like a muscle. You've got to keep using it, or it's going to get weak and it's not going to be good. I use the VSS, the very short stories. I use flash fictions, which are 1,000-word stories maximum. I use those for the stream time. Those are the ones that you'll actually see me writing on stream. I'll have it on a particular scene on OBS for Twitch that you can actually see me writing it, or actually watch me editing it. As someone in chat reminded me, I actually have read aloud and edited a story on stream that you could see it happening. I used to do a specific, like working on my actual novels on the stream. It's just, it doesn't work for me anymore. I noticed that I can't get into the mindset I want to be in, to make sure that the words I'm writing aren't just a slew of words, but are rather good words. I'd rather have fewer really great words than fall into the trap, which is very typical of like NaNoWriMo, where you've just written 50,000 words of garbage you're going to throw out. That's what I'm trying to. That's actually something I'm working on this November for NaNoWriMo. Is I'm trying to figure out, I have a hypothesis of how to write an excellent novel by the end of 30 days, because I've not yet done that. I've always spent another year editing what I've written. So I have projects now that I work on the stream. I love the VSS. For me, those are really fun ways of honing in a thought. I tend to have very flowery, widespread kind of writing, and it just like rambles. So the VSS have been really fun for learning how to hone in a thought. The flash fictions have been really great for taking a finished product, having a finished product that I can be really proud of, and having taken time to do that. And it gives me stream content. And then off stream now, I can handle the sit down focus, nobody's watching me, because that one doesn't work for me the way it works for Garrett. just work on my stuff with my Demon Hunter rock music blasting in my eardrums, like that's where I can focus up on that. And I can't be distracted by fantastic conversations.
Cool. Okay, so I have Garrett. Did you want to hop in on that?
Yeah, I was going to say that that I think that exactly what you're saying plays into that aspect that I think this is my third time mentioning it, where like my streams are I'm very selfish in my streaming. If you're really like, if you don't at all care about who's watching, what they're thinking, or anything like that, I can stay focused and productive. And a question that I keep running up against is like, if I really don't care, if I, then why am I streaming at all? And the answer to that is that I have never, and probably will never have the numbers that anybody else, Travis or Brenna or Scott has, because all three of you are providing a service that I'm just like not providing. And I think that it is hard to throw yourself completely into your work while also trying to entertain the people who are watching you do it. And so I've kind of had to give up on the entertainment value of it, which is why whenever I raid one of your streams or watch one of your streams or anything like that, I watch it and I'm like, damn, this is a really good stream. This is like you're just like very charming and cool. And I like watching you. And I've watched my own streams back for like post-game analysis. And like, it's not something that holds my attention. And I'm always surprised when it holds somebody else's attention. So I think that it might just be like a bit of a balancing act, where if you want to go like full bore, I'm just writing and I'm just trying to produce and I'm just then like you probably shouldn't even stream at all. But if we're on sort of like a scale where like should stream to shouldn't stream, I'm probably at like a 1 or a 2. You know what I mean? Where streaming helps me produce more. Whereas for y'all, streaming is another avenue of engaging with people and being really entertaining and getting people invested in you in that way, because like that's how you all got me invested in you. So if that makes sense, that sort of like sliding scale mentality of how much should I stream or not stream,
It's a spectrum.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that your spectrum is anywhere near streaming, Garrett, because I feel like, especially with a lot of you and a lot of the other Twitch streamers who are illustrators, if you hadn't streamed, imagine how we never would have met.
Yeah.
And if I never met Garrett, he never would have asked me to write under Underrealm, and I never would have had that experience of meeting the other writers who have written under that world. And I never would have, met Brenna, or I never would have gotten to know Scott and how he does his stream, or, I never would have met Travis, several months ago, like I did, so you could be the quiet, meek, shy streamer who, you want people to be in your stream, but at the same time, you're thankful, like I am, when no one's there, because it's like, okay, I could just chill and I could just do my writing and I don't have to be stressed and looking every now and again to see, like, why does it say there's 2 people in my stream? Who are those people? Who's here? Who's watching? Or you could be the entertainment, like Travis and Scott and Brenna are, but the idea is you get to meet these people that you probably never would have gotten to meet under any other circumstances.
And Erica was literally holding my hand like when I first started streaming. Like she was literally like my big sister back in 2017. So like shout out to Erica.
And if I could say something to
go ahead.
reinforce Garrett there. Garrett, I ran across one young lady on Twitch who had 130 to 140 people consistently for the hour that I watched her. And she would go off camera, just show her pencil and notebook, no music. She was in like 20% of the screen. The rest was just a countdown timer. And she kept those people there without speaking, without music, just writing. And then she'd pop on for 5 to 7 minutes, say something, and go back to it. Now, I have never had anywhere close to that number with writing. And I've barely had that number or above it with any other content. So what I'm saying is we all have value in what we're doing, and the differences are awesome. And there's an audience for each of us. It's just a matter of allowing that time to grow. And whether it grows or not, write the words.
And Travis, if you want to speak on the comments you said you wanted to make earlier, because my final question, I kind of want it to be the final one that encapsulates the whole purpose of this panel.
This is flipping back to the negativity where Bren mentioned trolls. And there is a certain type of troll that I never know how to handle. And that's our community troll that pops in, will not speak to anybody else in the community, won't talk about what you're doing or engage you with what you're doing, and only talk about themselves. And that's, for me, the hardest kind of troll. And they don't think of themselves as a troll, but that's the hardest one for me to handle, because I don't want to turn my whole stream into addressing a half hour on somebody else's project when other people are commenting and that person won't interact with anyone else. And yeah, that's the toughest troll for me. And that's all I have to say about that before it's gone
I
out.
know exactly the type of person that you're talking about. And the bad part there too is that there are people who are like that. And this is not to, I'm not using any usernames or anything like that. And this is not to belittle anybody. I know people like that who do come in, because here's the thing. And this is why I say, like, authors, as an author myself and among my friends, we are authors. Authors are arrogant as heck. We are arrogant. We are heckin' arrogant. We create worlds. We love our worlds. We embed ourselves in our worlds, and we want to talk about it. And that's also one of the benefits of having something like a workshop, because for just a few minutes, you are getting feedback that's aimed directly at you and your world and your baby and your creation. And it's really nice to have. And then there are people who will come in and they just want to talk about their own work in the middle of your stream. And it is difficult to handle, right? Just when I see that happening, I will address them. And if they're not addressing people who are also giving comments, I'll read those comments out loud, being like, this person said da 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 da. What do you think about that? And thankfully, I guess there's also the element of other people are talking, so there is other things to engage with. But if other people aren't talking and it's just this person, then there's no problem with interacting with that person.
Absolutely.
While it's going on. If there are other people and you might note it's a little uncomfortable, I might go ahead and attempt to engage in with what other people are saying, and continue another conversation. Sometimes I'm having like 4 conversations at once.
I use short answer control for these folks, especially if they're regulars, because I want to encourage them to write. But, hey, that's great. Yeah, you should do that. And leave it at that, because
best trick in the book.
Yeah, because you want to engage the whole community, not shut down the rest of the community for one person.
Yeah. And then the other side of that too, which veers kind of away from the writing though, is that you have people who will come in and dump like personal, like TMI stuff in your stream. And that I still struggle a little bit with how to handle, because you want to be polite, you want to be kind, but you are not. And keep this in mind, my friends here, anyone out there who is a streamer as well, anyone who's considering streaming, you are not a therapist. You are not a therapist. You are not a therapist. People coming to you with your problems, you're allowed to say, hey, if you want to, we can't really discuss this on the stream right now. If I can help in another way, maybe. Though. Oh yeah. Heart support. Heart support. You can go to them. They've rated me a couple of times, which has been really kind of them. But at the end of the day, you yourself, unless you are a therapist, which would be cool, and then ignore what I'm saying. If not, though, remember that you're not a therapist, and it is not your job to handle someone else's problems, nor to take the stream time to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we as streamers ourselves, we are naturally inclined to be able to do this forever, but I do want to take into account that some of us are here in the wee evening hours. So I do want to ask one final question, and if each of you could just give a short answer, even though we've kind of answered it along the way in different ways, shapes, or forms. But what advice would you give to someone who is watching or might be watching later and is considering streaming, that, you know, they should do it? Like, what advice would you give? Or even, let's say, what advice would you have loved to have received yourself when you started streaming, that you now are like, oh, I get it now. I'm chill. This is an awesome thing that I'm doing. If you could just, you know, give some advice to the people that streaming is awesome.
I'll start. The only thing that nobody else has on their stream, whatever cool backgrounds, gizmos, scenes, content, the only thing they don't have that you do is you. Okay. You make your stream like you. All of us here have very different personalities and very different streams, though there is bleed over and content that similarity for each of us. But being yourself is the most important thing, whether it is just your camera on you the whole time and you never say a word, or however you set it up. People watch a stream for people. And I think that's the most valuable thing you can add to your stream. Everything else will come with time, but do be prepared to tweak and change constantly, because you grow and your stream can too.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. That probably is the most important thing. People are showing up on a live stream, especially somewhere like Twitch, which is generally for gaming. They're showing up not for the game itself. They're not showing up specifically for the art, because they can always look at your portfolio and find the art. They're showing up to have a community and to see somebody on there and have that interaction. If you are planning to stream yourself, because I find it to be a ton of fun. I love it. It's, even on the days where I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this today. Those days are much more rare than the days that I get a little nervous before I start. But once I hit the go button, I'm like, all right, we are in our routine. Other than that, like, if you plan on streaming yourself, just have some healthy expectations of what you will see. Like, we have talked about it, you know, the numbers are not just going to magically show up. But that's not to say that your stream isn't good. But really just do what you want to do. Because that's all it is. If they're there to meet the person and to hang with the people, then whatever you have on that screen really doesn't mean nearly what you're probably thinking it's going to mean. If you want to write that day, write. If you want to stream a game that just came out and you're really into it, I promise you at least a handful of those people are going to stick around and watch it. So just do what it is that you want to do that day, and show up. And I think you're going to have a good time, because at the end of the day, you're still doing what you want to do on the stream.
So one thing that I agree with everything that's been said. One thing I just want to add in that I think a lot of people might be holding back a lot of people from trying out streaming is it's kind of similar to when I work as a Japanese teacher. I get students who want to study Japanese, and they buy all these textbooks and all these notebooks and these fancy flashcards, and they download these programs, and they buy the fancy brush pens and ink and everything. And they're like, I am so ready to start learning Japanese. And then 2 weeks later, they've done nothing, you know? And I think the same thing goes for streaming. You don't need fancy equipment or anything to do streaming. You don't need the best microphone or the best camera or the best computer or whatever, you know, just go with what you have. It's like, that's what I tell these students, you know, it's like, you don't need these fancy brushes and notebooks and whatever, just start learning, you know? So just start streaming and try it and see what happens. And if you like it, then hey, that's great. You know, then maybe down the road, you can get the fancy microphones or whatever, but whatever you have, you know, that's perfectly fine to start and see what happens. Because like other people said, you know, maybe your audio is 95% perfect instead of 100% perfect, but you know, it's you, the human being, that's going to make all the difference and is going to interact with people. And that's what people want. They're not, the microphone or whatever isn't going to make or break anything in the end.
Yeah. And from a purely practical perspective, I would say that if somebody was going to put money into a stream and you have like a little bit of extra cash kicking around into your stream, I like totally agree with Scott. What's most important is not your equipment. But when you are deciding what to buy, a microphone is more important than a camera, because the human eye is really good at forgiving poor video quality, and the human ear is really bad at forgiving poor audio quality. But on a broader metatextual level, I'm like completely on board with Brenna, and figuring out what you want out of your stream is the most important thing. And I think that you should actually put a number on it. I think that you should say, for me, it's hours of productivity. So I actually like have a graph up on the, on my wall right there. Just going to show everybody real quick. That is my, oh God. Okay. This was a bad idea. Anyway, one of those
It's the
graphs that you
graph,
just saw,
yay!
is my hours of productivity. If that number is going and trending up, then I'm doing well. And if it's not, then I know that I need to adjust something. And so your number might be your productivity. Your number might be the number of viewers, and that's totally fine and valid if that's what you want. But whatever it is, give it a number so that you are less prone to your own brain telling you I'm doing poor or I'm doing badly without some real world measurability to whether you're achieving what you want to do. And then always remain flexible to, I've been doing this for 6 months, and the number that I thought was going to make me happy isn't actually making me happy. I need to start paying attention to this other number or this other metric or whatever.
Oh, such great answers. Okay, so I want to now, wrapping this up, I want to say thank you so much to Travis, to Brenna, to Scott, to Garrett, because this was like my dream team for putting together this panel, because I was like, if I could do this, this would be like the sickest thing ever, because I truly do geek out over all of you and all that you do on your stream. Little old me in the corner, just doing my little writing and stuff. So I am so thankful that all of you guys took time out to come and do this. And I hope that everyone in the chat got something out of it. And thank you so much for saying I'm a good host. I tried.
I was going to say,
best.
respectfully, hard disagree. Not thank you to us. Erica, thank you so much for putting this on.
Absolutely.
This
Cheers
was
to Erica.
awesome. And you friggin' rock.
Yeah, I really wanted to get everyone here. And I just want to say, to answer that question that I just asked of you guys, myself, I want to say, echoing what everyone else said, but also, don't let people who come into your stream dictate how your stream should go. Remember that you are doing this for you, that you're not really doing it for the viewers, even if it's, Brenna with her 1,500 followers who has dozens of people coming in. She's not going to change her stream because someone in the chat is telling her that it should be a certain way. You have to realize that you're doing it for you. And at the end of the day, the people who come into your stream, as much as they may be regulars or new people, are at the end of the day mostly strangers. They're not your friends or family. You have to think of them as a bit of a separation, that you aren't accountable to them, you're accountable to you and what you're going to be satisfied with and okay with at the end of your stream. So make sure whenever you end your stream that you're okay with what you put out, and not worried that you didn't give the viewers what they wanted, because it's not about them, it's about you. And I hope that people consider streaming, because it's awesome. Stream your writing, stream whatever it is that you love. If it's not writing, if it's something else, give it a try. And also give everyone here a follow. If you look in the description below, I put all of the links for everyone's Twitch channel. So if you haven't yet, I know a lot of you are already people who come from Twitch already, from the Twitch world, and you're probably already following everyone. But if you're not, I recommend, following all of us on Twitch. And we all stream at such various hours that you're likely to not even catch us tripping over each other when we're streaming, that you could just see us back to back to back. So I just want to say thank you. We went way over time, but that's okay. We are streamers, and that's what we do. We like to say we're only going to do something for a short amount of time, and before you know it, you can't get rid of us. So thank you all for watching. And tomorrow is the last day of QuarenCon 2021. So if you go to QuarenCon2020.com, you will see all the other panels that are happening tomorrow. And if you follow this YouTube channel, you can see all of the panels that have happened since Thursday and all of the panels that happened last year. There are hundreds. So again, thank you all for being here, and hopefully you'll see the other panels tomorrow.
And if I may, real quick, thank you to the community in general, because you guys let us do this and enjoy every moment of it. Most moments of it.
Yes,
Every moment
thank you
of it.
thank you to the community for following and for keeping us accountable for our writing and for making sure that we stream and that we are productive on them. Right, Brenna?
Erica,
I harass her
we
too.
were so close, Erica. We're
I
so
know.
close. We're so close.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.